Hello, everybody, and welcome to this RAF Museum Research Lecture. I'm Dr. Harry Rafal, and today I'm joined by Guillermo Posadas. Guillermo was a major in the Argentine Air Force, and during his career, he was a technical officer and a flight engineer, including on the Mirage III Dagger, which we will discuss tonight. In 1978, Guillermo attended the Dagger aeroplane course in Israel, and in 1982, during the war, he served as chief of maintenance for 2 Dagger squadron. He is highly recognized and has received numerous awards for his expertise as an aeronautical and space historian, and he has co-authored several books and articles on the topic. So really looking forward to tonight's lecture. It's great to see such an engaged audience. Before I pass over to Guillermo, I should also add we've just added another Falklands lecture, which we've had on the works for a while. It's with David Jordan. He'll be presenting live from the University of Wolverhampton, and that'll be on the 5th of May. The details are on our Crowdcast channel and on our website, and I will post a link at the end of the lecture. But I'm delighted to pass over to Guillermo now, who's going to say a few words and then present his lecture. So Guillermo, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's for me a great honor to be here speaking to you in this well-known Royal Air Force Museum, which has inseparable ties with history, flying machines, and men. As president of the Newvedian National Institute of Argentina in Poland, I tell you that we are also dedicated to research, knowledge, and diffusion of the aeronautical and space history of the Argentina, and of course of the other nations of the world, like Great Britain. I want to thank you, Dr. Harry Rafa, for the kindness shown toward me during the preparation of this lecture. Okay, thank you. Please hand the first slide. Everything that I will say from this moment is my exclusive responsibility, and I do not represent or speak in behalf of the Argentine Air Force or the Argentine government, but on my own. First, I will speak about the airplane Mirage III Dagger from Israeli Aircraft Industries, and later about the operation of this airplane in the South Atlantic conflict in 1982. Please. Next slide. Let's start with some history of the Argentine Air Force Mirage system. In the mid-60s, the Argentine Air Force began to feel the need to replace its fleet of fighter and fighter bombers, represented in that time by about 20 aircraft FMK Gloucester Meteor, 4, British one, and about 25 F-86F North American Sabre. Next. The Argentine Air Force began an evaluation and study of the fighters available for sale on the world market, and in the study we consider American and European aircraft. From USA, we evaluate the McDonnell Douglas F-4E Phantom, North American F-100 Super Sabre, the Lockheed F-104 Starfighter, and the Northrop F-5. Next. And for Europe, the Sub-35 Draken, the English Electric Lightning, and the Mirage III. Next. Well, finally, the Argentine Air Force decided to buy the Mirage III-E, due, among other things, to the excellent performance that this aircraft have had in the hands of the Israelis, mainly during the Six-Day War. The first flight of an aircraft Mirage III-EA was the designation that gave Dassault to the Argentine Mirage. I said that the first flight of Mirage III in Argentina took place on January 10, 1973, and they were identified as interceptors, having the letter E before the number, I before the number. And a total of 20 airplanes were purchased. Next. Well, continuing with the modernization of its fleet of fighter aircraft, and like a complement for the Mirage III, the Argentine Air Force between 1978 and 1981 decided to buy from Israel the Mirage V Nesher, a very, very improved Israeli version of the French Mirage V. Next. With the modification requested for my English, by the Argentine Air Force, those aircraft changed the name to Mirage V Dagger. The modifications were mainly in the avionics system and part of the instrumental. Next. Well, the general characteristics you can see in the screen, but anyway, let's highlight the crew is one pilot, the maximum takeoff weight, 13,500 kilograms, and interesting is the power plant. The power plant was a turbojet Bet Shemesh 09C5A. This was a absolutely copy of the French Snecma Atar 09C5. With the same power, the normal thrust, 4,280 kilogram force, thrust with afterburner 6,200 kilogram force, and the performance was that the speed around 2,300 kilometers by hour, cruise speed 956 kilometers by hour, and a range of 1,200 kilometers. This is taken into account for later. And the flight ceiling was 17,000 meters. I flew the plane until 6,800, and it was very difficult to control. It was like floating in the air. Next, please. Well, very interesting is the armament because was very modified. The cannons were two-gun DEFA 5.52 30 millimeters with 125 bullets each. This also was an Israeli-made gun, but we have mixed Israeli and French one. And the anchorage or hard point were seven hard point with a capacity of 4,000 kilograms. These 7 hard points allow different combination between various models of auxiliary fuel tanks, bomb, and missiles, according to the mission. But really, in this part of the plane was a big modification if we compare with the Mirage 5 French. They did all the system, all the armament system new, more simple, more easy to maintain, and more fail-free. They did a fantastic job. With the experience of the wars, the Israelis changed all the system, from the cables until the switches. One fantastic job. Okay, next, please. Well, the Argentine Air Force bought a total of 35 single-seaters and 4 two-seaters aircraft. They were identified as fighter bombers, and this means that they have a C letter before the number. Years later, starting in 1983, the single seaters were all modernized and were called Mirage 5 Finger. First, these planes were based in the 8th Brigade in Buenos Aires. But at the beginning of December 1978, because of border conflict with the Republic of Chile, these aircraft were deployed for combat operation to an air base closer to the border with this country. But the conflict was over at the end of December of 1978 without enter in action. Next one, please. At the beginning of 1979 was born the Dagger squadron with 16 aircraft Mirage 5 Dagger. In August of 1979, the Dagger squadron was transferred to the military air base Tandil in the center of Buenos Aires province. At this moment, we had 25 Mirage 5 Dagger already in service. In December 1979, the 6th Air Brigade is created with the 6th Fighter Group and the 6th Technical Group. In 1980, Israel, through Israel Aircraft Industry, offered to Argentine Air Force a new batch of Nesher. In this opportunity were 11 single-seat and 2 two-seaters trainers. All these aircraft will be converted to Dagger according to the Argentine Air Force specification. But one of these Dagger would start to be modified and for an upgrading project called SINT by its acronyms in Spanish. In English, it will be something like Integrated System of Navigation and Shooting. At the end of 1981, we have a total of 34 single-seater aircraft and 4 two-seater trainers, divided in 4 air squadrons, 2 training squadrons and 2 combat squadrons, with a very well-trained pilots, and the 6th technical group with 4 technical squadrons, also with very well-trained technicians. Next one, please. Well, but what happened? Why this conflict? Very briefly, because political problems are not the point of this lecture, I will say that in April 1982, after the Argentine Armed Forces recovered in the Falkland Malvinas Island that were occupied by the United Kingdom from 1833 and claimed for Argentina from that time, start the South Atlantic conflict between Argentina and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and North Ireland. This year will be 40 years when in this South Atlantic island began the last conventional war between 2 nations of the Western world. I'm going to focus on the South Atlantic conflict from the view of a combatant, without going into politics or geopolitics, only from the vision of an Argentine Air Force war veteran and his micro-war. This is to say, what I lived in my squadron, trying to give you a vision of what was the conflict lived by the Argentine Air Force operating the airplane Mirage 5 Dagger. Next. The actions began on April 2, 1982. The Air Force established 3 air bases with light transport and attack aircraft in the island. This kind of aircraft was Air Macchi, Turbomentor, and Pucará. Pucará is the attack airplane, Argentine made. Well, since the runway of Puerto Argentino or Port Stanley was only 1,200 meters long and 40 meters wide, paved strip, the only one paved strip in the island, does not allow the operation of large fighting aircraft. For that reason, in the island, we had only light aircraft or medium aircraft. Next. Almost, let's say, immediately, UK prepared and sent a task force made up of 127 ships. On May the 1st at 4:40 a.m., a British B-2 Avro Vulcan bomber coming from Ascension Island, performing a complex, risky, and very well-planned flight, unloaded a cluster of 21 bombs of 1,000 pounds on the runway of Puerto Argentino. I had opportunity a few years ago to speak with the crew and did this flight, and really for me, like pilot, was fantastic mission, very professional, and I recommend you to read the book Vulcan 607. This book was a gift that I received from hand of squadron leader Marine Wiggles, DFC. Okay, excuse me, I will continue. Lucky for us, the runway suffered a minimal damage in one side. However, the Hercules C-130s, the Electra L-188, Fokker F-27, F-28, and another small and medium aircraft were able to continue operating until the end of the conflict. I have to say that throughout the battle, the airport facilities were attacked with 237 bombs, 1,200 cannon shells from Royal Navy ships, and 16 missiles. However, it never stopped working. Next, please. In mainland, the Argentine Air Force was deployed in 6 combat air bases on the Patagonian coast. From up to down, I will point each one. Trelew was a naval air base, and in this base was an English Electric Canberra medium bomber aircraft, was the squadron of the Canberras. In Comodoro Rivadavia, the following was the base for the South Air Force Command. Also in this base were all the transport airplanes and interceptors. And interceptors Mirage III that we were speaking. Later, down is my base. That was the one marked with the arrow, Saint Julian, with fighter bombers Mirage V Dagger, and also one squadron of A4C attack bombers. The following base to the south was Santa Cruz, the base of the Pucará ground attack planes. Later, we have Rio Gallegos, was based for another squadron of A4B attack bomber aircraft also. And the last base was Rio Grande Naval Air Base with fighter bomber Mirage V Dagger, and also one squadron of Dassault Brigade Superdétendant. Next one. During the war, I belonged to the second Dagger squadron. I was the chief of maintenance, and I had under my command approximately 4 officers, 70 non-commissioned officers, technician specialists, 25 civilian technicians, and 14 soldiers. Between 110 to 120 men was the average that we have in the squadron, the technical part, and an average of between 6 and 9 aircraft, Mirage III, Dagger, this fighter bomber, and around 12 to 15 pilots. It's important to note that the weather on the Patagonian coast at that time of the year is terrible. Very cold, very windy. The temperature are around 12 degrees, minus 12 degrees. The wind is between 20, 60, 80, and until 100 or more kilometers by hour. Why I say this? Because we have not hangars or bunkers or tents to cover the planes to protect them of the bad weather, and we have to work doing maintenance, inspection, and repairs at open air in the aprons that we prepare with aluminum plate at the end of the runway, as you can see in this picture. Also was snowing, and later we had mud, and was let's say was not a comfortable way to work. Okay, next please. Well, in the Argentine Air Force, we face a very serious problem. Why? Our primary mission was to defend Argentine Patagonia from possible attack from Chile. But this mission was changing from one moment to another, and our new mission became to attack the British fleet. And this, yes, was a very real big problem for us. Again, why? Because we never attacked a warship, and we didn't know the tactics that should be used, neither we had the right weapon to attack these ships. Well, maybe you will wonder, but was not the Navy with its aircraft carrier? The answer is yes. But unfortunately, the Argentine naval fleet, after the sinking of the General Belgrano cruise and the British atomic submarine going around, well, they said they have some disadvantage that forced Argentine fleet to return to mainland ports. And then the only Argentine Air Force and some planes of the naval aviation remained to oppose to the British task force. Next. Well, because this problem, we start planning how to attack the warship to reach the objectives. We have to do this, to reach the objectives, we have to make a flight of approximately 750 kilometers, 420 nautical miles, and then another 750 kilometers to return to our base. Our aircraft had a range of approximately little more than 3 hours when they were equipped with 3 auxiliary tanks and 2 bombs of 250 kilograms plus full bullets for the cannons. The problem is that our Daggers could not be refueled during the flight. And due to this, the combat time in the target was reduced to a maximum of only 3 to 4 minutes, being very much in the limit, because with this fuel, we can go to the place where supposed to be the target, fly 3 minutes and come back. When you come back, you have to land. maybe you can do another approach to land, very short approach to land. But if you fail, you have to eject because was not more fuel. This was very serious problem. Next, please. Well, and another serious problem that appeared was that, according to the war theories of that time, remember, we are in 1982. In that time, in the 80s, before century, according to the manuals that we received from our Navy, they say that every 10 aircraft that will attack a missile frigate, we have one similar Sheffield that was called Santissima Trinidad. If we attack this missile frigate, of every 10 planes, 8 of them will be destroyed. For us was a shock to receive that news because we have 30 planes, 30 something. What is this? We can do 3 sorties and we have no more planes. For the reason we start to plan, we think how to plan new forms of attack. And finally, we arrived to the conclusion of one, something never seen or thought before, and which gave us a very good result. Next one. Well, to understand what I mean, let me show. This is a very basic and schematic example, but I hope that you will understand easy. We have the frigate in gray and the radar lobes in different color. Remember, this is a schematic, it's not real. No? Let's say that the yellow one is the long-range radar for detection of enemies. The orange one is the radar for radar low for missiles, medium range, and the red lobe is for short-range missiles and cannon. For our intelligence, we know more or less where the ships were. And when we received the order to attack some ship that we know more or less where they were, then we calculate the range of radar lobes according to the position. And our flight profile was adapted to this. We fly in high altitude to save fuel, between 26,000 to 30,000 feet. And we have not any GPS or no aid. Also, in the island, they cannot turn on the ADF or VOR or whatever, because if they turn on, they were killed. With this missile, I think it was called Strike or something like that. I'm not specialist in this kind of weapon, no. And then we fly with the clock. We use the clock and the compass, nothing more. Clock and compass. Then when we calculate for time that we were flying, suppose 30,000 feet, and when we calculate for time that we were close to the long distance radar lobe, we start to go down. And the same with the medium and low, the radar lobe. And when we were about to enter in the range of the short range radar lobe, we descend up to few feet from the water, between 10 to 30 feet. the lower the better. This was up to your nerves and skills. In this way, you fly below the deck line of the ships. Then you fly very below the radar low. When we were very close, we start to shoot cannon and climb to launch the bombs. And this gives us a very good results. Next one, please. This slide is an example of the mission carried out for our squadron. Is also a schematic, but was the way that we used to attack. This mission was carried out the 1st of May, and this day was called the Day of the Argentine Air Force Baptism of Fire, because before we never entered in real combat in our history. What happened was, after the attack of the Royal Air Force Vulcan bomber in the morning, remember, the one that released 21 bombs of 1,000 pounds. After that, during the combat continued, and during the afternoon, we were informed that 3 warships are cannoning our soldiers in Puerto Argentino Air Base. And they cannot defend themselves because the long-range cannon have not yet arrived to the island. Then, in our squadron, we prepare 5 aircraft to take off. 3 Dagger loaded with, they were loaded like bomber, and 2 Dagger like escort with missiles. Then 3 with bombs and 2 with missiles. And these 2 with missiles, they were the escort, no? For bombers, like in the Second War, let's say. They took off to the island, following the pattern that I mentioned, flying at high altitude, and later they thought that we were close to where this ship were, they went down. And once they arrived to the place, they didn't see any ship. This was because the ship were moving from the first position where they have to be. They start to search, flying very low. Then also they cannot see too far because they were flying around 5-10 meters over the water until the limit of the fuel. In this moment, the flight chief gave the order to continue. 1 minute more, he said, no? And was in this minute that going around some island that you can see in the schematic, they turned around the island and they found the ships. And they prepared to fire cannons and bombing. The ships were totally taken by surprise. No radar detection, nor visual detection, and when they noticed the planes, only tried to escape the bombs. The result of the attack was successful for us, as the ship stopped bombing. That was the mission. They stopped bombing the airport and went away from the area, and they did not bomb again during the daylight until the end of the war. Next one. On returning from the mission, and according to the intelligence reports, I decided to find the silhouette of a frigate, but I only find the half, because we suppose that they were only damaged. Years later, I had the opportunity to read the official document and speak with the crews of these warships. I went to Great Britain many times, and I met a lot of war veterans. and I research for my books. And well, as I say, and I speak with the crew for this warship, and I found out that the damage in the only we produce a damage and real damage in the frigate Arrow with impact of 30 millimeter cannon that damaged the superstructure and some splashes injured an AV sailor. The Glamorgan, that was the other ship, was almost hit for two bombs that exploded beside the ship in the water and took the ship out of the water, dimming its hull. But it was able to continue in service because they didn't notice about this damage. After went to reparation between other things for the serious hit of MM38 Exocet, the 12th of June, if I remember. Finally, the Alacrity didn't receive any damage. Okay, next. Well, in this picture, you can see the planes flying very low over the water. If you push the button hand one time more, I will, yes. There you can see the planes. They are flying very low over the water, and in this moment they are climbing because they are very close to the ship. This picture, of course, was taken for some British sailor, and they are ready to climb to release the bombs. But I wanted to show you the very low that we used to fly to. The only way to be close to the ship and bomb was to fly very, very low. In some moment, we were coming so fast, 380 knots is the speed more or less to launch the bombs. So fast and so low that the cannons and the missiles cannot be launched, or the shooting was very erratic. And for that reason, they put Marines with normal weapons, with hand weapon, to shoot the planes, because it was the only way that they thought that can stop. I received a lot of planes with 762 the bullets in the fuselage, small bullet in the fuselage that don't do nothing, just a small hole. No. Next, please. Well, in this photo, you can see aircraft flying very low. Normally, this picture is taken after the bombing, when are in the escape. Next one. Well, this is very interesting picture seen from the cockpit of the Dagger. We have that we call cinema machine gun, that when you push the trigger, you shoot cannon, and also the cinema machine gun start to film. You can see the ship, the speed that is running this ship for the waves. No. Next. Well, this is another in the San Carlos Sound or Falkland Sound, where you can see a lot of ships. And how this plane is going a little bit at the front of the ship, because the ship will pass in order to release the bomb, no, or hit with the cannon. Next one. well, another picture. Look, this one in the lower picture, you can see the plane flying at the height below the mast of the ship. In few opportunities, the plane, when they released the bomb and wanted to climb, they hit the antennas of the mast of the ships. Was very low flight, really very low fly and very high speed. Okay, next one. Well, in at certain time of the conflict, when the British troop already land, we began to carry out not only attack to the ship, if not also radar-guided ground attack, mainly to the troops' headquarters camps. In the picture, the technical staff is changing the configuration of the plane from naval attack to land attack. In naval attack, we use 3 tanks because remember we have to fly 3 tanks of auxiliary fuel. Remember that we have to fly very low, and 2 bombs of 250 kilograms with parachute. The parachute was because we released the bomb too close to the target, very low, and then with this the bomb reduced the speed and let the plane run forward around 600 meters in front of the bomb, because the bomb comes with the same speed of the plane. But when open the parachute, the separation between the bomb and the plane is 600 meters, and then if the bomb hit and explode, the deflagration will not hit the plane. In this case, please the next. Well, you can see the aircraft equipped with 4 bombs of 500 pounds and with special fuse. This fuse made the bomb explode. These had not parachute. These were a normal tail in the bomb. And the fuse made the bomb explode without the need to hit the ground. Or, I mean, just touching the ground, the bomb explode. This means the explosion is over the surface, because the ground in Malvinas, Falkland is very like mud. It's called turba. It's very no hard. Then the bomb can be very low in the ground until explode. No, and the deflagration will be to upper, not to the sides. Okay, next one. Okay, with our fighter bomber Mirage III Dagger, we carry out around 58, 60 something combat mission in over 45 days of war. We lost 11 planes in combat. We have not any problem in operation. All the planes were hit in combat. And the main problem was this that I told you. We have only one way to go and one way to come back. We cannot go around. Then was, let's say, easy for the CAP combat air patrols to wait. Some helicopter with radar to tell them, and they wait. And when we pass, they hit us. It was not too much mystery. And our squadron sunk or damaged 5 British ships. The total was more than 20, but I'm speaking only about my squadron. No? Next. Well, on June 14, 1982, the Argentine armed forces in the island surrendered due to the numerical and media superiority of the British forces and their allies. But we fight with honor and courage, as did the British soldier. I have a great respect for the British soldier from many of them, for a lot of them, I am friend. Next one. Well, with this lecture, I want to pay tribute to all those who fell in this battle. And that's all. If you have some questions, or it's your hand.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, Guillermo. It was perfectly timed as well, which we always appreciate. Really interesting to hear, to get that different perspective, which I think is quite unusual in how we discussed the Falklands War. So I very much hope our audience have enjoyed it, and hopefully they'll have some really interesting questions to put to you. So please, if you're watching, do use the ask a question function. Got quite a few in already. I'm going to pose those to you in a moment. For our audience, I should say our next lecture will be on the 29th of April, live from Cosford at 12:30, when we'll be having the WE-177 nuclear bombs development explained to us by Tom Withington. So if you can join us then. But Guillermo, I really enjoyed the lecture. I was interested, you mentioned 11 Daggers were destroyed in combat, but from your experience, the maintenance side of it, keeping those aircraft in operations, how much of a challenge was that, particularly given the airfields you're operating from?
You mean if how we maintain the planes, or I don't understand well, but is that the question?
That's right, the maintenance of it.
Yeah, well, the maintenance was very good. Even though we have not one cover place, we used to, to be clear, we never let one plane go to combat without be 100% all the system operating. Everything I was responsible of that. I never leave one plane go to combat with any small thing. I always tell my people, listen, if the who made this plane say that this system or this alarm or this light have to be operable, have to be. Then when the planes go to combat, always they go 100% operative. All the systems. Was very hard because sometimes everything was with ice. Was very hard to take one inspection panel. Was very hard because it was full ice. But we did it. We work in the open air. But one thing was important, that we had this Israeli aircraft. They prepare the aircraft really for the war, for make the maintenance in wartime. Then this was easy. Let's say easy is a way to say, but it was easy.
Yeah. I mean, from the design perspective of it, when you went over to Israel, you seem to have a great deal of admiration for the aircraft. Is that one of the key reasons, because it was very much an aircraft designed for war and easy to maintain?
Yes, they redesign, because, for example, in the engine, in the Mirage, the normal Mirage, to make some reparation or adjustment, you have to adjust the fuel control. You have to take the engine out. You have to move one click and later to put the engine in, make all the connections, and you have to test it, because you cannot release to fly. You have to test it. All this take you maybe almost one day. the Israeli did one door, inspection door, then you four screws, let's say, you take the door, you do the click, you put the door and turn on the engine only to see if it's working, but you don't need to check nothing. Everything was easy in the plane. It's really made for war, I can say.
It's a fascinating perspective. I could monopolize for question time all day, Guillermo, because I think it's fascinating. But I'm going to throw to our audience questions. Darrell Brown's asked, what was the biggest threat to the Daggers when operating over the Falklands? Was it the Sea Harriers, or was it ground and ship-based anti-aircraft defenses?
Well, first, as I told you, was the Harriers. They were waiting, just like ambush. They were waiting because we have to go. We cannot turn around or make some shortcut. Nothing. We have to go straight and come back straight. Then they were, let's say, waiting. And when you receive the missiles 9L, this Sidewinder L, that you in the beginning you have to be in the back of the plane in some angle to shoot. But when you receive the Sidewinder L, you can shoot from the front, from the side, from the back. Then it was super easy to shoot down. And when you arrive to the frigate, was not so, let's say, was very, very, very complicated, difficult, etc. But in general, was more dangerous the Harriers also, no? Because you have when you attack the frigate, you can see we can arrive. Was not easy, but you can arrive, you can bomb, and in most of the cases you can run out of the frigate. Anyway, we had many planes that were shot down because the missiles of frigates, no? Not in my squadron, but in my squadron mainly they were shooting by the Harrier because, as I told you, they were waiting for us. But for A4C or B squadrons, they were shot down for frigates also. No?
Okay, I think sort of picking up on that, we've got a question from P. Wallace, who's asked about defensive aids that the Dagger may have had.
Well, this is easy to answer. We have nothing. We, as I told you, we fly with a plane with compass, clock, and engine. And we have, in some moment, well, I have to say that what we did to the defensive aid, we used to put in the air brake. The Dagger have air brakes in the wings. Then what we used to do, we put chaff. We put chaff in the place where the brake was closed. No, we open the brake, we put chaff, we close the brake. Then the plane flew with that. And if we're attacked in the way, they open the air brakes. 1 second is one touch. When you touch and touch, and 2 touches, open and close, and then release this chaff. But really, I have to say, it was more psychological effective than real effective. No.
That's fascinating. I've never heard that before. Okay, we've got a question here from Jeffrey Wardle, who asks, what type of radar did the Dagger have?
No radar.
For the ground attack missions in particular.
Well, I didn't tell you. Well, the radar when we perform a land attack was so. We take off, we fly around 30,000 feet, and we were flying until our radar in Puerto Argentino, in the paper, in the screen of the radar, they have the position of the headquarter camps of the British troops. Then they turn on and turn off the radar very fast in order to avoid the strike missile. No, then the plane was flying. In some moment, when the radar node that was over in the area, they turn on the radar, guide the plane to the point, and turn off. And in the moment that they see that the plane was in the point, they say, okay, dive and release. Then in that moment, 30,000 feet, the plane dive until 6,000 or meters, no? And release the bomb exactly in the point, let's say, and then climb and come back home, no? This way, with 2 fuel tanks was enough to go bomber and back. But the radar was the Puerto Argentino, the radar, not the plane radar. The radar have no planes. The plane have no radar.
Yeah. I've got another question here from Jeffrey, which I think we'll ask now, because you mentioned the lack of air-to-air refueling capabilities, both in terms of the loiter time over the target and the predictability of approach routes. But was that something which was, post-war? Was it really highlighted as an urgent need? Has it changed in any way in terms of the capability to have air-to-air refueling?
Please come again, because I don't get the question.
Yeah. So immediately after the war, having struggled because you didn't have air-to-air refueling capabilities, was there an effort made to try and create that capability for future conflicts, or was it not possible?
No. It was not possible to do nothing. We have to fly as the plane were. It was impossible. It was too much structural things to work in, and no. We just fight what we have. No chance for nothing. Let's say.
Okay, and we've got a question from David Ruddleson, who's asked, were urgent spares for Dagger aircraft supplied in part or whole by the Phoenix Squadron ex-civilian aircraft?
What is the question? The Dagger flying brake? How was the question, please?
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 down from David Ruddleston, and so urgent spares for the Dagger aircraft and how they were supplied, and in particular he references Phoenix Squadron and ex-civilian aircraft.
Here, where urgent spare for Dagger aircraft supplied in part or whole by the Dagger. Well, about it's about is spare parts, no, for Dagger. Mm-hmm. No. If this is about supplies of spare parts for maintenance or whatever, we never had any problem. We have no problem of supplies. We have no problem when we request some supply, some spare part. Immediately we had it. Why? Because I call the base, and they use one Dagger. They take the cannon chassis. They take all the munition, all the bullets. They put the spare part in. They put the chassis cannon again in the plane. And this plane, in 2 hours, I have it in my base. Then I take the chassis cannon, I take the spare part, and that's it. I never had a problem. But one thing I wanted to say. We, like a squadron Dagger, we were totally independent. We had our own spare part warehouse. We have all the equipment to check the plane. we have everything. We were absolutely independent. Very rarely I ask for some spare part or mainly I ask for something that I have not when the damage of the plane, because the combat was heavy and I can do nothing. Then what I do was repair in order that can fly to the base, and I send it to the base and then send me a new plane. No, the in reality all the damage of the plane were light. Some bullet, some grenade that explode close and did some holes, or some antenna destroyed, but were not heavy. We had 3 or 4 heavy that were in the impact in the windshield. The windshield is a blindex glass, seven layer of blindex glass, and when the shelf of the bullet hit the windshield, the glass, become all destroyed. The first layer of the glass. But anyway, you cannot fly, so the pilot cannot see to the front. You have to put the head to the side to see for the no. But that was impossible to repair in the base in the field. Let's say I have to send it as it was to the base. It was impossible because it needed process of hot and cold and
Yeah. In terms of the damage, you mentioned it was mainly light at the airbase. Is that because operating at the very extremes of range, if it was more serious damage, the aircraft couldn't make it back?
Well, I think that no, they can the planes with damage, no, even with serious damage can come back because they are very well done. They very rarely some impact, let's say, hit close to some vital part of the plane. Never happened. They did it in some way that is very difficult to produce a damage. But the plane also is, when you look from the front, have no surface. It's very small surface. Then to hit is very difficult, except with a missile. But also the plane, in most of the case, I mean missiles from the ships, no? They run faster. Sometimes they were, main hard maneuvers, a lot of G's. Then the missile pass. No, you know what I mean. You put a lot of G escaping, and the missile go not in the air because this Sidewinder L was impossible to avoid. Impossible. No. They launched and was a hit. One launch and one hit.
Yeah. I thought it was amazing seeing the pictures you showed, that very low visible profile as they were going in to attack the ships. It was quite stunning.
Yes. And the only way was, as I told you, with guns, with machine guns, because the weapon of the plane, of the ship, I have a video. I don't want it to put because I don't want it to put nothing. Let's say I don't like to be offensive with you because I respect you a lot, but I have videos, real one, British one, where show this, no, how they shoot and with the veterans speaking about and saying, yes, we shoot, but our weapon failed because it was so close, so low, it was impossible. and they become crazy. You can see, I have video where you can see the guns doing this, moving and not shooting because they cannot catch the plane because it's very, very close, high speed, and it was impossible. Of course, they in some cases they hit it. It's not that never did it. No, we lose a lot of plane, but was difficult. I mean, this of 10 planes, 8 will shoot down. That told us was not so. And I know because I was in another Air Force after the war. They were teaching these tactics in another school of the Air Force, another Air Force. What we did because was something that nobody faced this problem. The thing was that we were the only one that fight against the new frigates, missile frigates. Before, nobody did. And then they, in theory, well, was the theory.
Yeah, I think we've got time for one question, and I think mainly I'm going to ask about the sort of disadvantages that might have come with the design of the Dagger, particularly if there were any which were introduced because of the Israeli modifications. But that's a little bit of a negative question to end on. So I'm going to ask if, as well as that, for real advantages as well in your eyes.
Advantages.
So, yeah, both disadvantages and advantages.
The question is advantage of the plane?
Yeah, so both. Yeah, so the first question we've got from you and Grant, what were the benefits and disadvantages of the Israeli modifications to the design? And I think we've heard the benefits were, it's very easy to maintain, it was designed for war. But I think just broadening it in terms of the overall advantages the aircraft offered, as well as the negatives which may have come into the design, if there were any, because of the modifications the Israelis introduced.
I don't catch the question. I'm sorry, Rafa.
No, it's fine. Okay, so let's break it into two parts. What were the negatives, if there were any, of the Dagger and its design?
The negative of the Dagger, very well. I understand. I'm sorry. the negative, well, for me, the only negative was that we have not refueling. If we have refueling, this not happen. We don't lose so much planes. We have refueling, we can go around, and avoid all these caps, the combat air patrol, because we know where they were. In the last moment, our radar say, wait, you have a cap in such a point. This happened a few times, that the radar in Puerto Argentino, they told us cap in such position or cap going to you, And then for me, I'm trying to find out some disadvantage. Disadvantage was speaking about combat or operation. No, we have not. Was a very, very good plane. Maybe one disadvantage is that we need a longer runway. For example, our runway, this plane need longer runway to operate comfortable. We have 2,000-meter runway in San Julian, and we need at least 2,500. What we did was to prolong with this aluminum runway, portable runway, let's say. We prolonged. Anyway, we don't use it. It was just for emergency. But in the takeoff, normally we take off with a little bit over the maximum takeoff weight. Normally, because we fuel the plane until the last moment with fuel, in order that the plane go full. With full of fuel plus 2 bombs, the plane was almost overweighted. I have to say, because the war already passed in this long time, that we take off many times with overweight. And the run of takeoff was very long, and many times the plane take off at the end. This, let's say, we needed a more powerful engine, maybe. Was complicated.
Yeah. Okay. Well, to end on a sort of more positive note for the Dagger, what do you think, if you had to summarize one overall benefit of it, what was the best feature of the Dagger, do you think?
The best, for my point of view, well, if we take the maintenance, that was fantastic, perfect for war, perfect maintenance, prepared for maintenance on war. Well, the speed can be one. Many times the plane saved the life because the speed, because have very high speed. The consumption of fuel was very high, but in few opportunities this saved your life, and also even that is better maneuverable at medium high altitude. At low altitude, what we did show that also is very good, very maneuverable aircraft. No, and in general, really was a very good plane where you can see from maintenance point of view for flight. I flew the plane and is super. You feel sitting in the cockpit, you are the plane. To be graphic, no? You are the plane. It's not that you are the pilot or the plane. You are part of the plane, no? I feel so that I was the plane. It's a fantastic plane. But without refueling, is needed refueling. Very important in this case, no? But we, as I said, we were not our
really
mission.
Enjoyed tonight's lecture, Guillermo.
Pardon?
Yeah, I feel.
No, I don't listen.
Yeah. I just say, Guillermo, really enjoyed the lecture. It's been fed of a lag, so I'm gonna just mute you, Guillermo, so that we don't cut across each other, because I think we've got a lag. So there's a little bit of a delay on our line, but it's a great opportunity for me to say thank you so much for coming, speaking to us on this topic. It's offered a really different insight, and I've greatly appreciated it. So thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who's joined.